golfj.com.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Golf J podcast on FingerLakes1.tv. Jim Sinacropi here, alongside Rhett Taccone and Doug Brown inside the FingerLakes1.com studios in Seneca Falls, New York on Monday, October 3rd, 2016, where tonight we're going to recap the Ryder Cup and we're going to recap the season that was on the PGA Tour, and we're even going to have a quick little fantasy golf draft for next season, a little mock draft.
We better recap this quick because the season starts next week.
Yeah, this new PGA season might start before the show ends. So, but hey, this is really all about the Ryder Cup, and I think it exceeded everyone's expectations for how great the event could be. Yeah. And I think that the Americans had a lot at stake as a whole and individually, whether you're Davis Love III, having lost already as captain, or you're Phil Mickelson with all the controversy surrounding him, or you're Ricky Fowler, a controversial captain's pick. It seemed that, there's that picture of Ricky
hanging,
going stag at the
third wheel.
Yeah. So it really couldn't have been much better, I guess, for the Americans in the end, and now we don't have to worry about when the last time the Americans won the Ryder Cup, and it was just a fantastic event, unlike any other. Good for the game of golf. If you want to talk about growing the game, we always talk about what needs to be done to grow the game. Any kid watching that is like, I could get into that. Yeah, golf's pretty cool. So
something about the team aspect in golf, because you don't see it much, just makes it that much more special. Especially with the intensity and how good the two teams are, how evenly matched they are. I mean, we've had some bad ones in the last few Ryder Cups, but overall, it's very, very minute differences between the two teams. Each team had some of the top end guys, major winners. Each team had guys that were, new to the team. I had 22-year-olds. I mean, there was a good blend in both sides. So, going into it, you think it's on paper, a lot of people were giving us the benefit of the doubt with the better team, and we did win by a good margin. I think overall, though, you could take any of those guys and put them up against each other, but it just makes it that much more special when you have all of them competing together for one group. Makes it neat.
I agree. I think yesterday with the 12 singles matches going on, you talk about kids watching and getting into it. You can't get anything better than that with 12 games going on simultaneously.
Yeah.
And it's not like a normal match play events we see during the course of the year where half of those guys go home and half of them play again tomorrow or this afternoon.
Right.
This is for a trophy for the country.
Right.
So every one of those is important, and they cover them very well, stem to stern, 1 through 12.
Yeah.
And you can see where the flags change on the leaderboard from blue to red or back to neutral or whatever. So I think it's much more intense and much more entertaining at the same time.
Yeah, it's too bad that there isn't more opportunities for team golf, but the President's Cup is great and it's fun to watch, but it's more than just that. It's something about the Ryder Cup, the fact that a rivalry's developed. Remember, it used to just be Great Britain versus America initially, and the Americans dominated that. And then even when they expanded it to Europe, the Americans dominated. It's just recently, and by recently, probably the last 20 years, that it's really become a competitive event and a real rivalry. And it didn't disappoint. It certainly didn't disappoint this year, and it really, we saw some things that we never would see on a golf course, like the Reed-McIlroy match, with the way that they were, going at each other.
Yeah.
And, even Justin Leonard making the putt to beat Olasabal or to go one. I don't think that closed the match out.
Right.
But the celebration that ensued there was nothing compared to like what was going on in that Reed-McIlroy match. Right. My goodness.
Yeah, those guys were just going at each other, and then the crowd was fueling it as well. And Reed's dialing the crowd up with putts, and then Rory's going right back at him. And I'm sure there was some choice words said to Rory. You could tell that he was getting into it with the crowd. But I was impressed with him not letting it really get to him, and he really kind of played off of it and almost played better because of it. It seemed like.
Plus, I think Rory plays in the U.S. a lot, so I think the crowd was probably getting after him, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Without crossing the line.
Yeah,
he plays here.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of Americans who are Rory McIlroy fans.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's hard not
Big
to root
time.
for him.
Me included.
I agree
Plus,
too.
if you go in the crowd, after the crowd, you're done.
Yeah.
They're going to own you. So you might better play along than being like Colin Montgomery or Sergio did it to an extent a couple years ago as well. You go after the crowd. Although Rory did have somebody thrown out, though.
Yeah, well, sometimes. And Darren Clark said it best in the post-game press conference that they had, that elaborate post-game interview session. I never seen anything like that, where Darren Clark said that the majority of the fans were great. It's just a couple oddballs, and that's the way it's going to be in anything like that. Yeah. But they did a good job of, I guess, removing the people that stepped over the line,
right, and
leaving everyone else just to have a good time.
Right. The American players were also helpful with that too, because they're on the same page now. Well, Patrick and Rory are going at each other. They're great competitors and they're friends. I mean, they dialed it up a notch, but the people that were stepping across the line, I think, all hands on deck to make sure that it wasn't in poor taste. Right. And those two just looked like they were having a lot of fun out there yesterday.
So, mentioned off the top that Davis Love III may have been the biggest winner of all. Another loss would have been heartbreaking after losing the 9.5 to 6.5 lead on Sunday. And after his first Ryder Cup captaincy ended in a loss after the U.S. blew a 10-6 lead at Medina. So he was set up to have that Sunday collapse again.
Yeah.
Everything that went into it. If Davis Love loses this Ryder Cup, he's never going to be captain again.
Well,
but now he's probably going to
might have a chance to do it again.
Yeah, at least once.
I mean, he loses this time, and he's the committee, task force, call him what you want. He's their hand-picked guy, and if he goes and loses again, I mean, that's like you said, definitely had the most to lose, and probably was he might have had the most to drink last night too, if I was him.
Yeah.
After that win, that was nerve-wracking for a while. Like you said, Doug, earlier, there's a lot of blue up early
on. Yeah,
chance for them to come back, and the way that those two that went out first were going at it, you never know what was going to happen there.
Right.
So Davis has got to be relieved. He was. But he commented yesterday in the press conference that he was excited that Stricker was the captain of the President's Cup, and all he had to do was be a vice captain next year. He didn't have to give any speeches or.
Yeah, but nobody. Again, it's a whole nother level. There's a whole bunch of less pressure, I think, on the captains of the. And part of the reason why is because the President's Cup is a mismatch of countries thrown together. It's like everybody but the U.S. and Europe, where it's. Europe too. You wonder, geez, what do these Europeans have in common? But especially now with the European Union and the Brexit and all that, there is a community. Europe is a community, and I think especially when tasked with playing Americans, they kind of. I think in general, there's a natural rivalry between European people and Americans.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm.
Well, I don't think you're wrong there, Jim. I think I agree with you in that respect. But I think the one thing I think the quality of the golfers is on par with the President's Cup. Maybe not all the way, but yeah, I still think there would be. I mean, look at last year's competition; it was very close. The President's Cup. I just don't think there's the intensity. I think the quality of play is there. I just don't think there's the intensity that the many years that have built up, and then us dominating for so long and then being down for so long. I think that intensity, I don't know if they'll ever rival that. So, I mean, the competition 1 to 12 from a team aspect may get to that point someday, but I don't think you'll ever see that intensity or that much excitement. Just even talking to people, we have a friend, all three of us, that went to the Ryder Cup, how excited he was to go to that, And while I think all of us would go to the President's Cup if we had the opportunity to, if we had a choice to pick, we're going to take the Ryder Cup 100 out of 100 times. We're not going to go to the President's Cup. So
Ryder Cup or Masters? You can only go to one. Which one would you choose?
If you've already been to one.
If you've been to a Masters?
Doug's been to a Masters.
I've been to both.
Well,
I'd go to Masters.
You'd be the one to pick then.
I'd go to Augusta.
You go to Augusta.
What about Oak Hill up in Rochester, the major championship closest to us here in the studio, has a chance to host a U.S. Open or a Ryder Cup. Which one would you rather have it host so we could attend?
Ryder Cup.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Ryder Cup
Over the U.S. Open.
Yeah, by
definitely.
far.
Okay.
That atmosphere just seems like it's so cool.
That was a great site for it in '95.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great place to return to.
So another guy who had a lot on the line was Phil Mickelson, because after the 2014 Ryder Cup, he was the poster boy for everything that was wrong with the American team. Or maybe not the poster boy, but he was the spokesperson.
The voice, yeah.
He came out against the captain.
Legendary captain, too, no less. I mean,
yeah.
That was give him a lot of credit for jumping on, not necessarily just
Tom
because of who it
Watson.
was, but jumping on Watson. I mean, that's a guy that you just kind of hush, and I'm surprised that didn't all get thrown under the rug. But Phil's a guy who says what he wants.
Yeah, and he also is the he made it on points, but is the oldest member, of the team, just to still be able to play at that high level. And he was ridiculous on Sunday against Sergio Garcia. That may have been you talk about the Reed-McIlroy match. The Garcia-Mickelson match was incredible. How do you make 10 birdies in a match play match in the Ryder Cup and only have your match? 10 birdies.
Yeah, you win every other match.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Absolutely.
So that was fantastic. And then even when Garcia putted out to have the match, after Mickelson made 3 long putts in a row on the previous holes, Garcia makes that putt, and he went crazy like he had won the match.
Right.
That's how much he didn't want to lose.
Right.
And half point, but best match of the. To me, that was the best match of the day.
Well, those
Best
guys.
match of the week, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, those guys, status-wise for Ryder Cup teams, both of them are collecting a lot of points.
Well,
They both. Well, I know Sergio. Did he pass Seve, or he added to his? He might be the all-time Ryder Cup.
Faldo
points.
had the lead. I think it could have got beat over the weekend.
Yeah.
Well, Faldo has the lead for most matches played.
Okay.
Yeah.
Most matches played. Okay.
Points.
Yeah,
So
I
I
got
think.
the-
What are the stats for points for McIlroy, or not McIlroy, but Sergio and Phil are both way up the list on their respective sides. They're in the 22s or something like that.
Well, as far as matches go, Mickelson's match was his 45th in the Ryder Cup, one behind Nick Faldo for most all time. Mickelson's 11 singles matches ties Arnold Palmer for the most by a U.S. player. Mickelson's 18 Ryder Cup wins trails Palmer, who has 22. And again, Palmer, when he played, he was playing against lesser competition. And same thing with Billy Casper, who has 20, and Lanny Watkins, who has 20 for most all-time on the U.S. side. Faldo holds the record with 23. So Nick Faldo has 23 wins in the Ryder Cup. So Mickelson is still 5 behind Faldo in terms of wins.
Right.
But
So to break that record, he needs at least 2 more events.
Be pushing
You
it.
can't figure he's going to get 5 points in it in a Ryder Cup 1 year, right? Like
Well-
to see it, but he probably can't.
So it'll be 48 in 2 years. Yeah, I mean he's got two left in him, I think.
Right. You get 2.5 points each one, he'd tie him.
Yeah.
and his performance this weekend too will also be used if 2 years from now or 4 years from now he doesn't qualify on points and they have to ask if he's going to be a captain's pick or not. They'll point to how he did this year, but the putting was ridiculous on Sunday. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Not
All the
just
way.
Mickelson, but McIlroy, Reed, almost everybody.
Yeah.
It seemed like every time somebody had a putt, they made it. Like literally, no matter how long or short it was, I never seen putting like that. And it really blew my mind. Like it went past just ridiculous to extremely ridiculous when Mickelson made the one on 18. And the camera angle was so great, it looked like it might miss right, and it just poured in on the right side of the cup.
But he birdied his last 3, and Sergio birdied 4 out of 5. Or what was it? Is that how they both finished? It's crazy.
It's tough to keep track of. It just everybody kept making putts, and then somebody would make a putt on top of somebody else, and it was great. I think it was the best quality of golf that I've maybe ever seen across the board.
I agree.
You know,
Yeah, on one given day with 24 of the best players in the world,
I give Sergio credit too. Sergio was battling Mickelson, obviously, who's on fire, on U.S. soil.
Yep.
Right, and Phil's the guy.
Yep.
And Sergio's not terribly liked by some of that crowd, but you watch him play, and he can't win a major golf tournament.
Yeah.
And
he talked about it.
He did. I know. And,
what did he say?
He's got some heart and he's got some guts, and it just doesn't add up when he misses those putts to a couple playoffs that he had in majors, and he just can't walk through the door.
He was funny. He said, "I'm well aware after this week that I haven't won a major."
Yeah,
because everybody was reminding me about it. But he gets it done in this event.
I mean, say right now, after yesterday, is he the best European player that was in that event? It'd be fair to argue that he was.
Hey, him and McIlroy.
Right.
McIlroy played some incredible golf. Right. But yeah, he obviously showed he has what it takes to win a major.
Sure.
It's just, I think that no matter who you are, unless you are, somebody like Tiger Woods, who is clearly better than everybody else, that you're going to need a little luck. Bad breaks here and there.
Yeah.
And, he's won the Players' Championship, which is arguably harder to win than some of the majors. So that's the thing about golf. It's tough. You can be the best and you can play your best and still not win.
Right.
And there's just a lot of intangibles in there, and you're playing against so many other great players that.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing that's got to be frustrating to some people. Phil Mickelson at Troon this year is a great example. Played good enough to win any tournament that you play that good, you're winning the British Open or whatever tournament you're in. But one guy rose to the occasion, Henrik Stenson, and played better. So I do feel bad for Garcia. There's 2 points I wanted to touch on after that we were talking about there. The first, when you're talking about Garcia, is Cabrera Bello played great too. And what is it about Spain? Because Olazabal, Ballesteros, legendary Ryder Cup players, almost unbeatable, those two. And so, what is it about the Spanish people that produce such incredible Ryder Cup, players? Because you say Garcia plays his best in the Ryder Cup. This young Cabrera Bello looks like he's going to have a bright future in the Ryder Cup. And in the same mold as Seve and Jose Maria.
It just seems like their chemistry is always there. They're just, good nature about the partners when it was Seve and
passion too,
Jose.
Right? And you think the Spanish people are passionate?
They are passionate.
Well,
those guys are.
Seve got it started,
mm-hmm.
and then when he paired with Jose Marie, that was a great team. And then Jose Marie carried it on to Sergio, and Sergio's taking it now, and passing it along too. But Sergio just is at another level in this event. I know, surprised, the couple of years. I don't which year did he not play? Did he not play in 12 or? He missed one.
He did.
He was a vice captain. And
I think it was 12.
Surprising, he had a bad spell on the tour for 2 years.
Yeah.
He didn't make the team.
Right.
I don't know if he was injured a little bit too, but to think how good he is, and he hasn't played in every one that he could have played in. So
I think those guys also take their turn to be the mentor to the next guy.
Yeah.
Like Seve to Jose Marie,
mm-hmm.
and then Jose Marie down to Sergio, and now Sergio down to Cabela. So I think they understand their role of handing it off, even though it looks like Sergio's not ready to give it up.
Right.
Right. But I think he takes them under his wing and coaches them along.
Yeah.
And shares what he's learned from Seve and the others.
No doubt.
So the other thing is we're talking about the great play, incredible golf, but the course was set up kind of easier than it would be if for U.S. Open at Hazeltine. But still, it was a championship level golf course. So Justin Rose commented. I mean, what was it, Rhett, that Justin Rose?
He in the press conference yesterday, they were talking about the course, and he said, well, to be brutally honest or bluntly honest or whatever, the course was set up way too easy. He said, we're world class players. We should have pins that are much harder to play on, and make it more of a true test. And I think anybody that looks at it, you can see where he's coming from. But I just don't know if he needed to bring that up. I don't know what purpose it served, because both teams played the same pins, and a lot of those pins were right in the middle of the greens, and they could have been closer to the water. I know what 17 is the par 3 that has the water in front. And, if you tuck that pin in the dead right, that's definitely much harder. But what's the point? If you're both playing the same, it's not a stroke play event where, everybody's going through and you want to set it up tougher like a major. You want to make it exciting. You want to see guys hit 10 birdies on a round and be going at each other with a birdie barrage and not, just trying to make bogey. You know what I mean? It's how much better was that yesterday because of the way the course was set up and those guys making all those putts. At the end of the day, they weren't making close ones. It wasn't like everybody was hitting them to within 2 feet and just tapping it in every hole. They were making some long putts. So, maybe he takes that back if he has the chance to redo it. But, I thought that was just great drama by the way they had that course set up. And,
Yeah, I'd much rather see birdies and eagles than to have them flip to the 15th hole and here's somebody putting for a bogey to have the hole.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not exciting.
Oh.
They still got in some trouble, and there was some water and here and there, but I think it's much more theatrical to have the chance to make birdies and eagles. I like the drivable par 4. 18th green was reachable. There was another par 5 that was reachable. So 240-yard par 3 one day.
Yeah, right.
Not reachable by most.
Oh.
So I thought the sub was tremendous.
I
agree.
Minor detail, he lost to Ricky Fowler. So
you're right. If he wins, he probably doesn't make the comment.
Right.
And you're absolutely right. It's the same golf course for both guys.
Yeah, and Ricky honestly hadn't played great.
No.
He did score 2 points. He only played in 3 matches. He was 2-1-0. But
only 2 guys shot 10 or 9 under par.
Right.
Right, and we've seen that a lot. Well, the British Open for sure, we saw both of those guys do that too, or basically do that. And we've seen those scores all year long. But the other guys are probably all in the 67, 68, 69 range.
Right.
The good guys that played well, which is very typical.
It just kind of didn't seem to fit the whole, the whole tournament. Just to say the course was easy.
Yeah, that's a cop-out.
When 1 you lose and 2 you lose your match.
Right.
So, yeah. He's had better days. He's an Olympic champion, and probably could take that one back. I don't dislike him for saying it, but I just didn't think it was necessary.
Well, leading into this, we were talking about the captain's choices and who was a good choice or not. And one of the guys that really flew under the radar, and we'll talk about how all the captain's choices performed on both sides, but J.B. Holmes might be one of the most underrated Ryder Cup players in recent history. He's appeared in 2 Ryder Cups. He's been on the winning team both times, the only active American player who can say that. He played in the United States win at last year's President's Cup, and the USA is 5-0 with J.B. Holmes on its roster if you include his appearances at the 2005 Walker Cup and the 2005 Palmer Cup. So, J.B. Holmes was a captain's choice that didn't really have too much scrutiny or fanfare either way. But here's another guy that, if he doesn't qualify in points, is probably going to get picked next time.
He's a good luck charm because he didn't play that well, but he wins every time he's on the team. So we'll take.
He got 1 point
in
3 matches, and he lost his singles match. But other captain's choices. Let's start with Ricky Fowler. 2 points in 3 matches, 2-1 overall. I mean, pressure was really on Ricky as being a member of the task force and being heading into this playing worse than anybody on the roster, and he came through with 2 points, 2 wins, only 1 loss. That's fine. Any captain would take that from any player, 2-1.
That's right. I think the difference in his play might be part of the reason we win.
Yeah,
because he concerned us all being picked, right? But he exceeded what he's been playing like, and I think he's exceeded everybody's expectations.
Yeah, no doubt.
Ryan Moore, 2-1. We were all happy with that pick. He played great.
It's nice to see him make putts. Earlier on in his career, he's, known to miss some of those putts. In the last 6-7 weeks, he's been rolling everything, and it was great to see him justify the pick as well and make a lot more putts this weekend and close out close out the whole matches.
Yeah, winning yesterday really justified the pick.
And how about Brooks Koepka? Talk about low fanfare going in. Here's a guy who was in on points,
right?
And but really had struggled this summer and with injuries and was not playing well at all. 3 points, played 4 matches, 3-1. Won his singles match, won his his foursome match, and went 1-1 in the best ball foursomes. So I think Koepka's kind of, at least in the way I perceive him, we're going to talk fantasy golf later. I didn't know how much I would want him on my roster heading into this. Now I'm thinking, man, this guy's as good as we thought he was going to be last year. Those injuries must have really, derailed him a bit. So, and who's one more captain's choice here we're missing? Isn't there? We got Fowler, Holmes, Moore, and
was it Kuchar?
Yeah, Kuchar was the other pick.
Oh, yeah. 2 points, 2 and 2.
Yep.
So good job with the captain's choices, Davis Love. Now, on the European side, we start. Who are the Europeans?
Westwood.
Lee Westwood was 0 points in 3 matches, and that was the one that we scrutinized the most, too. Yep. How can you not? How you take a guy like Lee Westwood for the experience in the Ryder Cup, and you leave out a guy like Russell Knox, who doesn't have any experience in the Ryder Cup, but is a top 10 player in the world rankings. And how you get a guy like you, if you're Europe, you want a guy like Russell Knox to get the experience in the Ryder Cup. And I obviously it's easy to, after the fact, to look back and say what a dumb pick that was of Westwood, but 0-3 and
well, you look at their team, not to jump off topic for a second though, 6 of their guys got 2 points total. So the other 6 we're doing the lion's share of the work.
Yeah.
Keimer didn't do much. He had a point. Wood had a point, and Sullivan, Westwood, Willett, and Fitzpatrick got 0 points. So. And
Thomas Peters got more points than anybody. He played 5 matches, but 4 points, and we talked about what a great young player he is, and
yep.
Thomas Peters will be a guy to look out for next year in the majors, without a doubt. And I don't know what his plans are in terms of playing schedule, but he played this year on the European Tour almost exclusively, which is why most Americans don't know too much about him. I wonder if he'll come over to the PGA Tour next year, because if he does, look out.
He's an NCAA champ.
Yep.
For who?
Illinois.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How
did you see, he was with Westwood Friday when they got beat. That's the only point he lost.
Yeah.
Yep.
He looked scared. But I'm not sure if he was scared to be playing or to be playing with Westwood. Because Westwood was sitting all over the place.
Yeah, right.
Okay. But I thought at that point in time, I thought this guy's going to have a lousy Ryder Cup. But once they got separated, he played very, very well.
Yeah, so Westwood not only was a bad captain's choice, but he cost Thomas Peters a perfect 5 point.
Yeah.
And he really did, because I don't care how good you're playing, you need your partner.
Oh,
they had him in the alternate shot.
Yeah, that's where he had
my goodness.
Oh,
yeah.
Westwood's hitting him 20 yards left and right.
Oh, yeah.
3
Hit
fairways
that lake
over.
in the one hole is.
If his shoe's on the other foot, and Europe has been struggling for these last years and hadn't won since in 8 years, do you think Darren Clark gets a lot more criticism last night and today for his captain's picks?
Well, I'm sure he's getting criticism for picking Westwood because of the performance, and then those guys are buddies, so he's going to get scrutinized. And I'm sure that press over there is equal to ours. Okay,
a little more
but
harsh.
It will be lesser because they've won a few.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And if Westwood gets a point, it takes a lot of pressure off.
Sure.
That conversation. But the guy gets shut out, and he really played poorly. You could play well and get beat and lose all your points.
Yeah.
And say, look, I shot 65 and Mickelson shoots 63. What am I going to do? Right?
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if Westwood was going to be in under 75.
Who were the other 3 picks? Or
Peters was one.
Did they have 2 or did they have 4?
They had 4, but they took them all at once.
That's right. Peters was one.
I'm pretty sure Peters was one, right?
Keimer was one, right?
Yep.
Keimer was
And
one.
he didn't play well at all either.
He got 1 point.
Was Sergio a pick?
I think he qualified this time around.
And it wasn't Fitzpatrick. Andy Sullivan.
Here we go. So Peters, Westwood, Keimer, and they go 9. So it was
just 3 picks.
3 picks.
Okay.
Peters, Westwood, and Keimer. So
he'd been better with Bernard Longer.
yeah, we said
That's
that.
what we talked about. Well, if you're going to take Westwood, I'd take Longer over Westwood any day.
Right.
So, and then the final kind of thing that I take away, or we might want to talk about or just recognize, is how good a golfer Rory McIlroy is playing. He went from having a terrible year to wondering if he's even going to stick around in the top 5 after a few more months to winning the FedEx Cup and now just dominating in the Ryder Cup. He took 3 points, and it really took a Herculean performance by Patrick Reed, one of the best U.S. Ryder Cup players ever at this pace. He's got to be heading into next year the top player in the world. I don't care what the world golf rankings say. Jason Day's the top, or even Dustin Johnson. Rory looks like he is at his prime and ready to dominate.
He looked like he did 2 years ago.
Yeah, his putting's got a lot better. And he's going to go as far as his putting takes him.
Yeah.
Because his ball striking is phenomenal.
It is unbelievable.
So if he just putts reasonable, he's going to be hard to beat.
Yep.
Went back to the Titleist putter.
He did. Scotty Cameron, yeah.
Yep.
Is it a coincidence that Nike gives up the golf equipment business and McIlroy starts winning? I think he's still using the Nike clubs, though.
He has got
He
clubs
is.
still, yeah.
But like he could use a wooden spoon and and a hammer and hit it where he needs to hit it. His problem's never been hitting the ball.
Yep.
He drills it.
So the U.S. gets a win. Now the task force needs to get back into gear for the Paris matches coming up in 2 years. The 2018 Ryder Cup comes 25 years since the United States' last win in Europe.
Wow, it's crazy.
So we got the cup. It's back on American soil, but the last time we won in Europe was 25 years ago.
That was Davis Love, too. He closed that one out.
As a player.
Belfry, yeah.
So a couple other notes on the Ryder Cup. The 1711 victory was the largest since 1981 in PGA National.
The year nobody saw it.
And that team featured Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Johnny Miller, Lee Trevino, Ray Floyd, Hale Irwin, Ben Crenshaw, and Tom Kite. How about that team?
All in the Hall of Fame.
Yep. That's a good team.
Yep.
All 12 members of the American team won at least one match this week. The last time that happened was when Arnold Palmer was the captain of the 1975 team at Laurel Valley. Each member had collected a win before the singles session even started this week, so that also takes a lot of pressure. I don't think you want to go into the singles being 0-2 or 0-3 and feeling like, I'm going to blow this for our whole team if I don't win this singles match. So that might have helped a little bit. There would have been no clear GOAT if the U.S. had dropped the singles matches, if they lost the cup.
Right.
You wouldn't have been able to look at one person and say, if he wasn't picked. Although, the two guys with 1 point, J.B. Holmes and Jimmy Walker, only played in 3 matches, and they both lost their singles match. So, it was an unbelievable event. And 2 years from now, we'll be talking about it again.
Paris.
So I'm just going to say, I'm not convinced this task force was that successful. We played well.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Get a task force together for that, just to make them play good. How are you going to do that?
Phil blasted Hal Sutton about years ago, putting Tiger and him together, and then the whole thing with Tom Watson last year. We didn't play well in those years.
Hit the ball, put it in the hole.
Right. We made putts, we made sand shots, we made golf shots, and that's all the difference in the world.
Well,
but do you think the captain's chemistry the captain builds around this with the pairings and the captain's picks and the schedule and everything, don't you think that will be conducive maybe to better play in certain situations?
I think it'll help somewhat, but they're professional golfers.
Yeah, I know, that's the thing.
That's what I struggle with. Tiger and Phil, number 1 and 2 in the world, they didn't even talk to each other.
Yeah.
That's human nature. There's something wrong with that. So maybe the captain shouldn't have put them together, no doubt about it.
Yeah, that was a
But
mistake.
they're number 1 and 2.
Yeah, you'd be
I think it does help what they're doing when it comes to the captain, because I do think the captain is very important, and I think it definitely helps when it comes to getting the guys to work together, build the camaraderie when it comes to alternate shot, because you do have to have a rapport with the person. You've got to be able to hit one of them's golf ball, so you got to make that choice. Everybody's got to be on the same page, and I think that's where, we were talking about the Spaniards, where that comes into play is that how good they feel about each other.
Right.
I mean, that was a disaster what Hal Sutton did when he put those two together. I mean,
well, I think we all cringed when we saw the pairing.
Yeah, they didn't even like each other back then.
They didn't like each other, so that was a captain's mistake.
Sure,
but you don't need a task force to solve that.
No.
I mean, I think any one of us could have said we could have captained that team and been okay, but even then, you're still professional golfers.
Yeah, task force is silly. I think the task force is silly. especially when it didn't even include Paul Azinger.
Well, did you notice he's like nowhere to be found?
Right. I know, which is weird.
He wasn't even at the captain's tournament that they had a couple of days before. So I think that there's a little, bad ill will, because he did kind of call a lot of people out in the last few years after they won, and he wrote the book, and he kind of was wanting to be the captain, I think, in 12 when Davis got the shot, and when they collapsed in 12, he had a lot of choice things to say. So I think he's kind of been removed 100%, and nobody mentioned his name. They didn't mention his name on the broadcast. And he was probably, up until now, was known as one of the greatest captains we've ever had.
I mean, I think it's great to get the players involved in who do you like to play with, or we have golf ball issues, whatever. I think it's great. I just don't know if a task force by
name,
the way we're describing it, is what solved world hunger this past weekend. Till we get a win for the first time in a long time.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
I mean, we win and again, it's different. The crowds are different, but we seem to win the President's Cup with basically the same players. So, and we're playing some really good players the rest of the world has to offer. So why is that not as big a deal? Last year that group got along well, and there was some good stories coming out of that whole group, and there was no task force for them, and they won a tight match. So you're right. It probably didn't need to name it anything. They probably could have kept that under wraps and just gone about their business.
Because the PGA selects who the captain is. All they got to do is have their own criteria for who they want, and in the interview process, what's your style? Figure, I don't want you because I don't like your style.
Right.
I want someone who's going to involve the players. Well, you didn't get the job. Jimmy got the job.
Well,
nobody ever knows any different. It's not a task force.
Right.
So.
And one thing you look at with the President's Cup is, like, Freddie Couples has been the guy for the last few. I don't think he was last year, or was he? Either way, he was 3 in a row, I think. And Jack was a captain for quite a few before that. And roll him through. If the guy does good and you're happy with him, why get rid of Davis Love in 2 years? I'm not saying they will. He probably will get a chance to do it now. I think they're moving that way. But
it's a way, I think, for the Americans to or the Europeans to honor someone who deserves it. So you don't want to monopolize it with one person, but on the other hand, would you fire Bill Belichick, after with the success he had, just so you can, give another worthy coach a shot? But it's different. This event is so different than anything else. So, and I will say one thing that I really didn't enjoy about it. I just thought that the grandeur of it all is almost a little too much, in the ceremonies and stuff. Like even the speeches that, Darren Clark's speech after, everybody gets up and says, on these historic matches, the play that we saw could not be, everybody says the same thing, and all this pomp and circumstance, which is some level of that is why I like golf, though. The propriety, the old school gentleman nature of things. But I just felt like it was a little, because I was like, come on, guys,
Right.
It almost makes it seem like you're way too full of yourselves.
Right.
Made for TV, somewhat.
Yeah, but it's on the Golf Channel after the coverage ends.
Right.
It's tough to explain.
I know what you're saying. And it's almost like you notice this year, all the stands were wrapped in the red.
Right.
And I mean, that brings a lot more attention to it, just that color.
It looked like a unique event. Every shot on television looked unique.
Right. The normal tour event, those are all wrapped in green, and you don't really notice them at all. And you see these big stands wrapped in red, and that made it bigger. And like you said, everything's on a much grander scale.
But I think it's the way media has influenced sports, and I don't really like what it's done in other sports, and I'm afraid that we're close to crossing that line maybe with this. The Super Bowl is a great example. It's just overhyped. All the pregame and postgame with the concerts and stuff, they're not even that great. It's not a good venue for a concert in the middle of the field, and it's the Super Bowl. We get it. You're going to crown a champion, and guess what? Next year we'll do it again, and then we'll do it again. It's not as big as they're making it. I guess it's overblown, and even the same can be said about like college basketball's Final Four. Just all the media packages that are thrown in, you know, of this players and the glamour shots and the it's in the venues for the Final Four are terrible places to play and watch basketball now. It used to be in Lexington, Kentucky.
Yeah. 20,000 used to be.
Or East Rutherford, New Jersey. That's a basketball arena. So I'm just a little concerned, and it was a passing thought as I watched, especially throughout a lot of the week, but especially during like the opening and closing ceremonies. Like, geez, come on, guys, get over yourself. I want to hear what these guys have to say, interview them. But the speeches were long-winded and a little.
A lot of hot air.
A little uncomfortable sometimes, you know, just a little uncomfortable, a little awkward.
One thing I thought about the speeches at the end was a miss. Darren Clark did not present us the trophy.
Right.
Oh, that's right. And Davis picked it up for a second, set it back down.
Right. Mike, Darren
Tirico.
Sprague, their president of the PGA, presented the trophy. Well, the Europeans held the trophy until we won.
Right.
I expected Darren Clark to, at the end of his speech, and now I present to you.
Yeah, it would have been nice.
Here's the trophy. And then he makes a speech.
That would have been nice.
Right? So, one of the passing shot I want to add on the coverage, I like the split screen during the commercials.
Oh, I know. Why doesn't everybody do that for every sport event? You know, even if...
That might be a trend.
Even if it's a sport like basketball where there's stop play, keep the arena shot in or the huddles or something. I think as an advertiser... I would prefer that because you're less likely to get up and go to the bathroom or grab a snack.
Yeah, well, they've been doing it in car racing for a few years now.
Right, because there's no break, especially for those sports where they don't stop for the commercials.
Right.
And I'm surprised, honestly, with soccer that they don't put it in that.
That would be another perfect example.
They run that all the way through, and that's one that probably you'll see do that eventually. But especially with what NBC's paying for Premier League coverage. But anyways, not to get off track. That was great, and I think you'll see that in anything NBC is going to do moving forward. Any of their big tournaments, they're going to see that in. So that'll be good. And Fox is always looking to get beef their coverage up. So, but that was awesome, being able to never have to miss a shot. That was cool.
Yeah, you don't need sound to figure out what's going on.
Right.
If you're into the sport that you're watching,
yeah,
you can tell what just happened.
No doubt.
So, great Ryder Cup, exceeded expectations as a viewer and fan. So let's talk about if this PGA Tour season exceeded our expectations as fans. It was not what we expected going into it. We wanted to see the showdown between Rory and Spieth and Jason Day, and Dustin Johnson was almost a little bit of an afterthought. And that all changed when Jordan Spieth, this is my most memorable moment of this season, Jordan Spieth chunked shot after the drop on 12 at Augusta. At that moment, everything changed. Before he hit that, even after he hit it in the water, you're like, well, Jordan Spieth's still going to win this tournament, probably by 3 shots. Right. And maybe win the Grand Slam because nobody, he's the best. He just won the FedEx Cup. He's coming off 2 majors. Jordan Spieth's the next Tiger Woods. And then that chunk shot in the water, and it was like, oh my God. And Jason Day didn't win a major. We were penciled him in for 1 or 2.
Wait.
Well, if I asked you guys on January 1st how many majors Jason Day would win in 2016, you would have said either 1 or 2, I bet.
I'll give you that, but you penciled him in every week to win a tournament.
If it wasn't for the health concerns, he would have won a lot more, I think. Or he was in contention at the Tour Championship and dropped out again because of an injury.
Don't disagree. He was on his way to having a really good year and then got a little sidetracked.
But really, it's the year of Dustin Johnson, who, like I said, was a little afterthought almost because he'd blown so many times that you're just like, I don't know if this guy has what it takes. He's going to be the next Sergio Garcia, maybe. He squashed all that at the U.S. Open.
My memory for the year was the almost horrific botching of the U.S. Open with the USGA and all that went down with that. And thank God that Dustin Johnson had such a great weekend that he didn't have that come into play. But that rules fiasco, right or wrong, whether remember we talked about this. That one was almost of an opinion more than anything because of how it went down.
And it continued through the season with other strange rulings in other tournaments. The U.S. Women's Open was another one.
Yep.
And so that is a big story, I think, of the season. And how is that going to be addressed going forward by the RNA and the USGA?
We just think
or the PGA Tour, who could literally set up their own set of rules for those circumstances.
Sure. And I think his failures prior to that tournament helped him withstand the nonsense that was going on for those last 8 or 9 holes. You know,
right, but as a fan, we're going, oh my, here we go again.
Right, and what if he doesn't win that tournament because of it? He never recovers from that.
Right.
Maybe I mean, 3 majors that he's absolutely bombed in and
right.
not gotten it done. So, but he did. He got it done, and I think that was a big story.
Yeah, and Player of the Year, right? I mean, is it unanimous? Did anybody have an argument for anybody else to be Player of the Year than Dustin Johnson?
Yep. Small argument for Rory, but very small. I think Dustin wins, and deservedly so.
Yeah, I give Rory Player of September.
Yeah.
and early October.
Yeah, we got to forget last week, this past weekend.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, but Rory did finish strong.
Yeah.
But over the season, Dustin Johnson wins.
Yeah.
Rory plays like he did this last month, and next year, forget about it.
Yes.
But again, anything can happen, like we said with Jason Day.
And so another thing I take away from this season is, again, we're always looking for the next stars. We keep saying the next Tiger Woods, but really the next Phil Mickelson, the next everybody. The players that are going to set the stage for the competitions over the next decades on the PGA Tour. And, yeah, we did. We got Rory, we got Spieth, we got Dustin Johnson, all still in their primes and coming into their primes. But a lot of new names, popped up there. Whether you want to talk about Ryan Moore, one of the quietest, most successful players on tour, or you want to talk about guys like John Rahm or even Bryson DeChambeau, some of these personalities.
Smiley Kaufman.
Emiliano Grillo.
Grillo is another one, man. We're going to have our mock draft here in a second. We'll see where Emiliano Grillo goes, maybe if he goes in our there's 3 of us, 4 rounds, 12 picks. So it's I'm excited as a golf fan. I think the state of the game is great, and
no doubt.
I think next season is going to be super exciting, and even these early season events, we'll see if some of these young guys, we'll see if Bryson DeChambeau, who earned his tour card, will get a win. Justin Thomas is a name we didn't bring up at all. He almost made the Ryder Cup team. He's been playing well as of late. Maybe he'll be the guy that breaks out. Or maybe this year we'll get what we thought would happen last year. Maybe we'll see more McIlroy versus Spieth in a major final round with Dustin Johnson in there. Maybe Jason Day gets his health back together, and we see, of those 4 guys I mentioned, maybe we see 3 major championships out of those names alone.
That's what I think we need now to take the next step with this group, is for them to start playing each other on Sundays late in majors.
Yep.
That'll
never happens though. And even going back to the Nicholas, you had Nicholas Watson at Pebble Beach, and that's something that's well remembered because it's so rare to have 2 of the best players and biggest names actually square off at a major and both kind of play well.
True.
Those are 2 Masters in a row where Nicholas won, but Weiskopf and Miller both had putts on 18 to tie.
Yeah,
and they were back-to-back years. But that was, I'm recalling that from, obviously, that was not back in the 70s. But those guys were tremendous players. They just couldn't make that one shot to beat Jack.
Yep.
And that's what the golf fans want to see. But I think of like, Greg Norman having a showdown with Nick Faldo. That rarely happened. Yes. But they did, Larry Mize beat Greg Norman, and so there's just so many players in a golf tournament, and they're all capable of playing well enough to win.
There's a sleeping giant coming back too, don't forget.
Who could that be?
My buddy Tiger.
Maybe. Did you notice that they talked at the Ryder Cup about how he hadn't signed up yet, and that he had left open maybe a possibility that he wouldn't play in the Safeway after all. His spokesman said something like,
I don't think they want to fully commit yet.
Right, he's not fully committed, and he wasn't seen hitting any golf balls or practicing at all, and this Safeway Open's 2 weeks away, and he hasn't played.
He shouldn't have been seen doing any of that. He was a vice captain.
He wouldn't have done
I give him credit for being in the back seat.
I agree. He did a great job as a vice captain, without a doubt.
He was very, low key, and and to a man, all 12 of those players said he was very helpful.
Yes, he was.
So
But is he going to play in the Safeway?
I hope so, because Phil's committed. So it'll be good to have both of them in that. The Safeway's dying if they get both of those guys in that tournament.
Yeah.
2 years ago, well, they had Rory last year, but 2 years ago, that field's just bare bones. But.
So real quick, over under on tournaments played by Tiger Woods in 2016/17, 10. Over or under?
Over.
I'd say an under.
Definitely over.
Wow.
So okay, quickly now we have.
We only have. If he does play in 2 weeks, we only have 9 left to go, Doug.
Right.
So I mean,
And 4 majors.
yeah.
All right, fantasy golf draft. We'll go. Who's older, me or you, Rat?
What are you? February or March?
February 1972.
March. So I'm younger.
So we'll start with the elder statesman, and we'll go around the room.
Snake? Is this a snake draft or is this just around the robin?
Let's just go around because we really want to determine kind of maybe who these top 12 guys might be if you got a fancy
All right.
pick coming
He's
up.
giving me
You
the
sure
business.
I'm the oldest?
Well, he's giving me the
Are you
business now. I got to wait.
Well,
every
we're not
third
going to
pick.
track this. This is a mock draft.
Well, you're sure I'm the oldest one, right? That's why I get to go
Well,
first?
we could check birth certificates.
No, we'll just leave that alone. All right.
So-
I get first pick,
Yes.
same as I took last year. Rory McIlroy.
Rory McIlroy would go 1. So I would get the second pick. And this isn't as clear cut as it probably was a year ago. My heart wants to go Jason Day, but I'm not willing to sacrifice that high of a pick on a guy with health issues. So I'm going with Dustin Johnson. His wedge play's phenomenal. I'm going with Dustin Johnson.
Well, geez, I guess I'll take the guy that everybody forgets about, and I'll take Jordan Spieth.
Yeah, that's a tough one to.
It's pretty consistent for fantasy golf.
He is. He's just not many wins lately at the end of the year for the third pick. But
2 wins.
so, no, you know what, Rhett? Go ahead. Let's snake it.
Snake it. All right. I will take Patrick Reed.
Wow. Well, he had a great year. Again, not many wins. One big one at the end of the year.
But it's fantasy. It's all about consistency. Right.
So then it comes back to me, and now I gotta wonder if at 5th I would take Jason Day. Geez, you just can't imagine that these health issues isn't something he's going to work out.
Yeah.
I'm going with Jason Day.
All right.
Yeah, we don't have any player lists here. This is off the top of the head. So now you have 2 picks, Doug.
So nobody's taken Dustin Johnson yet.
No,
He
took
took him.
I
You
took
did.
him second.
Yeah.
How did I forget that? Okay.
You were so happy
wanted-
you got Rory
I know.
McIlroy with the first pick.
I did get Rory. So I get the snake pick here, huh? So give me Brooks Koepka
Wow.
and my buddy Kevin Chappell.
Wow, those are 2 sleepers. Maybe
heard
reaching
it here
early. But hey, so now it would come back to me, and I'm going to take Ryan Moore. 8th.
Okay.
Plays a heavy schedule, and
I'm going to go with, so I got a snake, right? I get the next 2?
2 picks, and then you're done.
I'm going to go with, I'm going to take a shot. Say he does play most of his golf on the PGA. I'm going to go with Henrik Stenson.
Okay.
And then I'm going to go with my man, Tony Finau.
Come on.
Come on.
10th?
Yeah, I'm done. I got no other picks.
Okay. Well, I'm going with 11.
You took Griot, so.
I didn't take Rio yet, but I'm about to.
Oh, I would have taken. I thought he was gone.
No, look, here's a guy.
I got nothing in front of me. Where's the computer with the drafts and the you're up next in a minute and a half?
That's right.
I would have taken Griot. Can I have a redo?
Griot is a guy who he has it all. He has it all. He's gonna.
He's a good pick. I'll take.
And I love him in the majors.
Tony Finau breakout year.
So last pick.
So this is the last pick, not the 12th pick, but the last pick. Tiger Woods.
Oh boy.
I almost took him.
You're going to keep these records, right?
You know, we're gonna put it
No,
up on
I
the-
wasn't
we gotta put it on
gonna.
the
This is a
website
mock
now.
draft.
Oh,
Mock draft.
we got to put it on the website.
Well, I would throw in $10 and go against your team with Tony Finau on it,
You're going to be sorry when you see how many
and
points
your
he racks
team with
up.
Tiger on it. You guys are crazy.
Let's do it. Why are we discussing this?
I'm letting you guys off the hook.
No, don't let us off the hook. We like our teams. We picked
Tiger will
them.
win more money than Emiliano Grillo.
Oh man, now we're doing side bets. So we have a fantasy draft coming up a week from Friday. It's gonna end. Time to do some homework. These are questions that anybody with a fantasy draft coming up, which there really isn't too many. It's more people do the Yahoo daily stuff, but if you get in a fantasy golf league where you're actually drafting your own players and they're yours, I just think that's a better way to play fantasy golf than to go in there and have the same player pool that everybody does, because you really have to make decisions over the long term, not just week to week.
I think we need to put one together at Seneca Falls.
Yeah, no, I'm
ASAP.
Yeah, we don't have much time.
Let's get it going, Doug. Let's round up some people.
So, just recapping, Rory McIlroy was the first pick, Dustin Johnson second, followed by Spieth, Patrick Reed, Jason Day, and then Brooks Koepka. So, and of course, we didn't have a comprehensive list in front of us. We might be missing somebody that we're overlooking.
Yeah, there's some.
I was looking at the 24. That,
like Bubba Watson.
Right. Yeah, Bubba. Well, I don't know.
Look, you want to take Tony Finau or Bubba Watson?
Finau.
Okay.
Well, nobody took Phil Mickelson after the year he had.
Yeah, right. Why not anybody take Mickelson? He's obviously primed up and ready to go for another great year.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we, because next week's the preview for the Safeway Open. Why don't we have a legitimate draft next week?
Well, I thought we were taking a break.
Oh, well, we can take a break. We can have a draft after the first week.
We can have draft. We can. Yeah, I don't know. But this type of discourse is the reason why this next season is going to be so exciting, because there's a lot of question marks.
I'm riding Tony Finau all the way to the championship, whatever that means.
It's a good choice.
So, yeah, there you have it.
They're all good picks right now.
He won more than Tiger did this year.
Yes, everybody won more than Tiger.
Yeah, well, hey, fellas, it was a great year and a great Ryder Cup. Now we can start focus on 2 years from now, but President's Cup coming up next year. And, yeah.
Normal schedule next year, no Olympics to throw a wedge in there. It was good to have that, but it'll be good to go back to the normal summer major schedule.
Absolutely. This year was kind of weird, and didn't like the changes. I didn't like all the majors being over before August 1st at all.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
But so, hey everybody, thanks for spending some time with us here on the GolfJ.com podcast. Connect with us online on Twitter at the GolfJ, Instagram at @the_GolfJ, and on Facebook at facebook.com/GolfJ. All of our episodes and the best of the wide world of golf can be found online at GolfJ.com. Stay tuned to our homepage at GolfJ.com for the latest golf news and features that we'll be posting until we return to our regular rotation, and for updates on special podcasts coming up over the next couple months. So until next time, hit 'em long, not often.
GolfJ.com